samsaradava nalaliraloka tranaya karuna guna ganatvam praptasya kalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinda Mahaprabhu kirtan nitya gita vaditra madhyan manasorasena romanchakam pashutarangavajo vande guru shri charanaravinda Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratan Mandira Marjanado Yuktasya Bhaktam Staniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Chaturvida Shri Bhagavad Prasada Swadana Triptan Haribhaksha Sangram Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shiradika Madhavayorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namnam Pratikshanasvadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Nikunjayo no ratikeli sedhai Yayali bir yukti rapekshaniya Tatrati daksharati vallavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda साक्षादारित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यतेव साधे किन्तु प्रभोय प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसाद भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादान् न गति कुतोऽपि जयं स्तुवां तस्य यशस्विसाध्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Praje prasidham navanita choram Gopangananam chadukula choram Anika janma jita papa choram Chauragraganyam purusham namami Sriradhikaya hridayasya chauram Navambuddha shamala kanti chauram Chauram Navambuddha Shamala Kanti Chauram Padashritanam Cha Samasta Chauram Chauragaganyam Purusham Namami Akinchani Kitya Padashritamya Karoti Bhikshum Patigehahinam Kenapya ho Bhishana Chaurayidrik Drishtastruto Vana Jagatrayepi Yadiyanamapi haratya sesham Giri prasaranapi paparashin Asharya rupo nanu chaurayidrik दृष्टाश्रुतो वा न माया कदापि दानां च मानां च ततेन्द्रियाणि प्राणां च हृत्वा मम सर्वमेव ततेन्द्रियाणि प्राणां च हृत्वा मम सर्वमेव पालायसे कृत्र द्रुतोऽत्यचौर त्वं भक्तिदाम्नासि माया निरूढा क्षीणस्ति घोरं यमपाशबन्धं विनस्ति भीमं भवपाशबन्धम् क्षीणस्ति सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं नैवात्मनो भक्तकृतां तु बन्धम् मन्मानसे तामसराशि घोरे कारागृहे दुःखमये निबद्धा लाभाश्रहे चौरहरे चिराय स्वचौरदोषोचितम् एव दण्डम् कारागृहे वास सदा हृदये मध्ये मद्भक्तिपाशा दृढबन्धननिश्चलांशान् त्वं कृष्ण हे प्रलयकोटिशतान्तरेऽपि सर्वस्वचौरं हृदयान्न हि मोक्षयामि व्रजे प्रसीदं नवनीतचौरं गोपाङ्गनानां च दुकुलचौरम् अनेकजन्मार्जितपापचौरं चौरग्रगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह
Vishnupada Brahmamsa Pratikacharya Stota Shata Shishmat, His Divine Grace, Aparachana Rinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON PPT Bhaktivedanta Institute, Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupada Brahmamsa Pratikacharya Stota Shata Shishmat, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavna Ki Jai, Nama Acharya Srila Haridasa Ki Jai. Premise Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dadar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Purushottama Chaitanya Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samavrita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Purushottam Adhika Masa Ki Jai Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari. All glory to assembled devotees, all glory to assembled devotees, all glory to assembled devotees, all glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlada Daine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Shilatan Khana Khalae. Hito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimha Madhim Sharanam Prapade. Tav Kar Kamal Vare Nakham Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadhirita Narhari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare हरे केशवधीरता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की गौ प्रेमानंदे
वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य विष्णु भक्तिपते देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य विष्णु भक्तिपते देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य विष्णु भक्तिपते देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रियसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो यही अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो यही अभिलाषी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रियसी
ये तो मारे शरण लोय तारा वंश पूर्ण होय कृपा कोरी करो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हेरी बो सदा जुगल रूप रासी यही निवेदन धरो सखीर अनुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासी कोई यही न मोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा येन वासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा येन वासी यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमाहत्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमाद्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमाद्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Vrinde Devi, Jaya Vrinde Devi, Vrinde Devi, Jaya Vrinde Devi. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Nitya Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaur Hari Bol. Nitya Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. वृंदे देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय। श्री वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च च विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। श्री वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च च विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवश्च च विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वृंदे देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय।
My desire also represents the pressure go to achieve and down in time. Thus within my vision shown before the beautiful Master Radha and the Krishna. I beg to make me follow Kara and the Puraja. Please give me the privileged devotional service and make me own maid servant. This very fallen lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love, Shri Radha and Govinda. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotee to have a dedicated life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Veda literature or to pursue the Veda version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to the imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualist activities, offering the Vedas of fruity activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about glory to holy name. 10. Do not complete faith in the chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses. In order to quickly achieve desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us, for most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, They are just as high trees who can fulfill to everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Jeto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahatavakni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Pudivartanam Pratipadam Purunarmita Sadhanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuta Nija Sarva Shakti Statra Pita Niyamita Smarani Nagalaha Eta Deshi Tavakripa Bhagavam Mamapi Turudevami Disham Iha Janina Nurakaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadaharihi Na Thanam Na Chanam Na Sundarim Kavitam Vajagatisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishware Pavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvai Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Paditam Man Vishame Pavan Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Duri Satisham Vichintaya Nayanam Karadashuru Daraya Vatanam Katkada Rudaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Vapur Kada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishati Yuga Itam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravisha Itam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Ashrishava Padaratam Pinnashtumam Atarshanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yatha Tatha Va Vitatatu Lampato Mat Prana Nathastu Seeva Na Paraha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai.
Glory
To Shri Krishna Sankirtana,
which cleansed the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguished the fire of conditional life, repeated birth and death.
This
Sankirtan movement is prime benediction of humanity large, because it spreads the rays of benediction moon.
It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean sense of bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which all is anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grant all benediction human beings. Thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda.
In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental
energy.
They are not even hard and fast rules for
chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us easily approach by holy name. But I am so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. When should chant holy name the Lord in humble state of mind? Think to yourself, Lord, and then join the street. When should be more taller than a tree,
devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others.
In such a state of mind, one can chant holy name the Lord constantly.
Oh my Lord, no doubt desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your closest devotion service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? When will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant and worldly absent. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord. Unconditionally, Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai. Om Aganyati Virantasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Marubhistam Savitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swavadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapach Kamalan Shri Gurun Vaisnavam Sa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Savaganarutam Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Pradan Sagana Lalita Shri Sakadvitam Sha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Namo Raya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Vasubhanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Tayane Prabhave Namaha Madhu Ujjwal Vimandya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Guru Vani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Guru Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhude Padam Bujayate Namaha Namo Vayasvatitanandanamine Guru Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Vrayate Guru Vir Bhava Bhumistvam Nirudesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Savagoma Sri Jagadatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Premapadayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chuse Namaha Manchakalpatarubhyascha Bhaktanavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Jayatam Suraturpam Gur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambu Jo Radham Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpadumadva Shrimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bhise Ramano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasaram Vivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venus Swanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishmari Vishabhanu State Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Sadmaskalpa Vriksha Laksha Vrite Susuravira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sat Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Pranandam Govinda Dalayataksam Parhavantam Samasitam Buddhasundaram Kandarpa Gopika Maniya Vishesa Sobha Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvan Malya Vamsi Ratam Vinam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Jivangala Vitanyata Prakasam Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalan Trivrittimanti Pasyanti Pantika Yanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrasya Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Yovanam Cha Vede Sadurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktam Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamya Mayoratapi Manasoni Pungamana Sopyastiyat Prakarasimya Vichinchitate Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Jahitam Javiranda Kotim Yaschakti Rasti Javiranda Chayayadanta Adanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rasta Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bahu Bhavita Dyumnavaiva Jamvapi Rupa Mahima Samyana Bhusa Suktarya Meva Nigama Pratitastuvanti Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Tabirya Eva Nityarupa Dayakalavi Goloka eva nivasata kilatma bhuto govinda mahadi purusha tamaham bhajami premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santaksa deva hidesu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupa govinda mahadi purusham tamaham bhajami Brahmadi Murti Sukhalani Menatisthana Avataram Akarud Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamamya Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Vachami. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, transcendental spiritual body and is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopikas.
Very good.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids.
Very good.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyam Sundar is eternally manifest.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fleshed functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universe, both spiritual and mundane.
Very good.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay. He is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning in the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth.
Good.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the Gyanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of eliminating of mundane extending over thousands of millions of years.
Very good.
He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore.
Very good.
I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments.
Good.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka, with Radha resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidant Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamsundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. Anybody?
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and different avatars in the world in the form of Rama, Narsimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions.
Very good. Next is the Shishi Chirastakam English translation. I offer my respectful obeisances to that foremost of thieves, who is famous in Vraja or Vrindavana as the butter thief, and he who steals the gopis' clothes, and who, for those who take shelter of him, steals the sins which have accrued over many lifetimes. Hari Bol.
I offer my respectful obeisances to the foremost of thieves, who steals Srimati Radhika's heart, who steals the dark luster of a fresh rain cloud, and who steals all the sins and sufferings of those who take shelter of his feet.
He turns his surrendered devotees into paupers and wandering, homeless beggars. Alas, such a fierce thief has never been seen or heard of in all the three worlds.
Very good.
Mere utterance of his name purges one of a mountain of sins. Such an astonishingly wonderful thief I have never seen or heard of anywhere.
O thief, having stolen my wealth, my honor, my senses, my life, and my everything, where can you run to? I have caught you with the rope of my devotion.
You cut the terrible noose of Yamaraja. You sever the dreadful noose of the material existence. And you slash everyone's material bondage. But you are unable to cut the knot fastened by your own loving devotees.
O stealer of my everything, O thief, today I have imprisoned you in the miserable prison house of my heart, which is very fearful due to the terrible darkness of my ignorance. And there, for a very long time, you will remain receiving appropriate punishment for your crimes of thievery.
O Krishna, thief of my everything, the nose of my devotion remaining forever tight, you will continue to reside in the prison house of my heart, because I will not release you for millions of eons.
Very good. Thank you very much. Prabhu, Shalagram, I think this fan is on. Ah, very good. Now you can hear something. Okay, so. Oh, I'm sorry. Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. We can recite together. Janmada Yato Nivyad Taratas Taratesu Avigyaswara Tene Brahma Hidaya Adhikavaye Vyanti Atsuraya Tejo Varinam Dutavanimayo Jati Sargamisha Tamna Srena Sada Nirasta Kulakam Satyam Paranti Mahi. Anybody want to read the English?
O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of three modes of nature, appear factual although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Very good. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. We recite together. Dharma projita kaitruvo tra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapo trayam bulanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite Kimbhapare Ishvaraha. Sadyo Vidya Ruddhite Tra Prithvi Vidhi Susushabis Takshana. Anybody?
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavad Puran propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality, distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyas Deva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Very good, thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3. We can recite together. Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam sukhamukad amritam prabhya samhitam pivata bhagavatam rasam mayam muhur aho raska vibhavakaha. Oh, expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relatable for all, including liberated souls.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very good. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14. And verse number 10? 11, okay. Now we're hearing about Diti and how she was overcome by material lust, and her husband Kashyapa was not spiritually strong enough to control her lusty advances, and therefore they gave birth to two demons, the first two demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. This proves that conception is not simply a physical function like the cats and dogs. This proves that it's necessary to have pure consciousness at the moment of conception of the husband and the wife. That's why there is what's called the Garbhodhan Samskar. That's preparation in order to procreate a child. All these things have become more or less forgotten or not practiced anymore. I mean, maybe there are some people that practice this, and that's very good. But most people, they're just engaged in a lusty behavior. And they use all kinds of things, contraceptives, and other techniques to avoid, just to have, other techniques to have the sense gratification and avoid having the children. Or they will also kill the children. I don't want to go into it too deeply, but if you hear all the nonsense things that they do nowadays, you'd be shocked. So it's very incumbent on all devotees to hear, especially this chapter, of the trouble that Didi got into because of her lustiness and the cooperation of her spiritually weak husband. Now, Kashyapa Muni is a great, let's say, pundit, but he was not able to, let's say, instruct his wife properly. And his wife was not able to act properly because she had weaknesses. So therefore, the whole Vedic culture is to train young men and young women to develop the self-control and the principles of spiritual life so that they don't make these mistakes. And then you'll see that instead of having Varna Shankara or unqualified children who become materialistic sense gratifiers, you'll have children that are spiritually inclined and respect their parents, take responsibilities, control their lust, anger, greed, etc. And society becomes very peaceful when the unqualified children grow up. They just create conflict and get into trouble. You don't need to go very far. You can just look at the news every day and see what crazy things are happening in this country because kids are not being educated properly. Okay, so here we go. Text 11. Tad bhavam dayamanayam sapatinyam samriddhibhi prajavatinam padram te Mai ayunktam anugraham. Tat. Therefore, Bhavan, your good self. Dayamanayam. Being distressed. Sapatinam. Of the co-wives. Samriddhi bihi. By the prosperity. Prajavatinam. Of those who have children. Badram. All prosperity. Te. Unto you. Mai. Unto me. Ayunktam. Do unto me in all respects. Anugraham. Favor. Therefore you should be kind towards me by showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives. By performing this act, you will become happy. Well, there's no real happiness when you make a mistake. But you see how people can use language to convince other people, and by the language, they trick them. So, unless we're trained to be chaste, the greatest quality of a woman is to be chaste, and the great quality of a man is to be self-controlled. The ability to control his mind and senses, to always be engaged in spiritual activities, and the wife to be very chaste. I remember one time in France, I had a large factory. I had many workers, some of my workers were from Sri Lanka. So one of the Sri Lankan men's wife was finally able to get some kind of a visa to come to France and live with her husband. So I had a factory, and it was about 3 hours from Paris, 3 hours south of Paris. So my foreman, who was the husband whose wife was coming from Sri Lanka, he asked me, he said, "There's so much work here, let me stay here, you go pick up my wife from the airport." I said, "Okay, no problem." So I drive to the airport 3 hours. The wife comes. It's a very nice, very decent Hindu lady. And I come up to her, I said, "You're the wife of so-and-so?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I am your husband's boss, and he wanted me to pick you up and take you to the factory." And she looked at me and she said, "I am not going anywhere until my husband comes here and picks me up and takes me." I said, "But, it's like 3 hours away." I said, I came all the way up here to bring you." She said, "No." I said, "I'm just going to sit here and wait. He has to come to get me." Now, she was a chaste lady. She's not going to sit in a car with a stranger that she doesn't know who he is and go 3 hours all the way down to a place where she doesn't even know where that is. So I had to call the husband. He had to get in a car and drive 3 hours. I had to wait. And eventually he came, and then she got up, sat down next to him, and went to the factory. Now, she was a traditional lady from Sri Lanka, and she was chaste. There was no question of her traveling with a stranger. And these are things that are incomprehensible to many people today in the West. But this was the culture, the original culture of India. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's good, actually. So to train children, little girls, little boys, to value chastity, to value self-control, to value proper ways of doing things, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, it clearly says, Dharma Viruddho Bhutesu Kamosmi Bharatar Sabha. This is 7th chapter, verse number 11. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. So in the purport it says, the strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. Similarly, sex life, according to religious principles, dharma, should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. So, here is what you would call a continuum, that you have the act of procreation to take place by following the Garbhadan samskar, And then you take full responsibility of raising that child, husband and wife together, to become a pure devotee. So it's a continuum that it's not, oh, you have copulation and then it's over, and then you have more copulation and it's over, then you have more copulation, it's over. No. You have it once, and now in the continuum, your responsibility is to raise the child to become a pure devotee. That's all part of the, what you would call a sexual act. So this is a different concept. You see how everything has become so, you could call it contaminated and full of unclean thoughts. And because of that, many children grow up and they become wild and angry, and they kill people, and they do foolish things. See? So this is a big responsibility. As soon as you have a husband and wife that are serious about spiritual life, this is the basis of peace, prosperity, happiness, and spiritual enlightenment in this material world. That's what Prabhupada is teaching us. That's what Lord Chaitanya is teaching us. That's what Krishna is teaching us. See? And also it says, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, this is third chapter, verse number 37. Kama esa kroda esa rajagunu samudbhavan mahasana mahapapma vidi enam iha vaidinam. Now this word vaidinam means like a wild person, right? So it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion, and later transformed into wrath or anger, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Okay, so do we want our children to grow up to be lusty, or do we want them to be chaste and respectful and self-controlled? This is a fundamental question, and there's definitely, let's say, information that one should not be a teacher, one should not be a mother or a father, one should not be a leader if they cannot teach their children to be genuine devotees. In other words, you should not be allowed to have children unless you are certain that you can train your children to be devotees. We'll get to that in a few more verses. So anyway, the example of a chaste woman is Arundhati, is Shilavati, there's so many. Shilavati is one of the most chaste women in the whole history of the world. She saved her husband from death by her chastity and purity. That's how powerful women become. Chastity, when a woman is chaste, she develops superhuman powers. And she can do things, even though she might be just seem to be a housewife and a mother, but she can do remarkable things by her chastity and purity of mind. So this is what we want to teach our children, our young girls and our young men also. Okay, are there any questions? Okay, so that was 11, right? Okay, so it says purport. I didn't read the purport, did I? No. In Bhagavad Gita, sexual intercourse for begetting children is accepted as righteous. A person sexually inclined for simple sense gratification, however, is unrighteous. In Diti's appeal to her husband for sex, it was not exactly that she was afflicted by sex desires, but she desired sons. Since she had no sons, she felt poorer than her co-wives. Therefore, Kashyapa was supposed to satisfy his bona fide wife. Well, these are called excuses. She has her excuse why it's okay to have copulation at the wrong time and based on lust, and she has some excuses to make it seem as if it's bona fide. This is very important that men and women know what is right and what is wrong. And it's not only right and wrong, there are right times and wrong times. There are right ways and wrong ways. All these things are part of the education of proper education of children. Mataji, let me ask you a question. The girls are being taught in 4th grade, and then the boys in 5th grade, right?
That's from Lake Washington School District, Maharaj.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the.
So, and you've read the curriculum?
I did. I mean, there are some videos. So the school sends us an email of what is being taught, and they call it as health.
As what?
Health.
Health.
Health, yeah. And you can go look into the videos, and if you feel appropriate for your kid, you can sign off if you don't feel like comfortable. You have that option for not sending your kid into
Right.
that particular lecture or.
Okay. Let me ask you a question now. Most of the course, is it about how to have sex? Or is it about something else?
So the 5th grade, the one I have seen is all about HIV and AIDS and how not to discriminate people because of health issues. So they have taken couple of or 2 to 3 examples of kids' parents who are sick and how the kid is suffering because of their parents' health issue. They haven't really talked about, at least in the 5th grade, Maharaj, they haven't really talked about
Sexuality.
yeah.
Okay. So, do they do that in further grades?
They have it in middle school as well, which I am not yet aware of.
Okay. You haven't had been exposed to that nonsense. All right. So here we see, instead of teaching them the values of chastity, purity of the mind, purity of the body, proper ways of doing things and improper ways of doing things, they're more concerned about HIV parents being, let's say, treated badly, or other things like that. Now, we don't have anything about, we don't have any prejudice against people that have diseases, especially sexually transmitted diseases. But what is the essential education that a child should have about procreation? That's the question. So maybe you can do a little research and see what that education is in later classes.
Sure, Maharaj.
Yeah. I'm almost sure they're gonna go into the what you would call how to have sexual intercourse, this thing, that thing, rather than emphasizing chastity. But I might be wrong. I don't know. So I don't know what their curriculum is. Okay, so that's something we can look into.
Sure.
Okay, so then text number 12, somebody can read the English and the purport.
Text 12, translation. A woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for the expansion of living entities.
Now that doesn't sound bad. This sounds good. But in this particular situation, it is bad. Go ahead.
Purport. According to Rishabhadeva, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children whom he can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. Human life is the only opportunity to get out of the material scene, which is full of the miseries of birth, death, old age, and diseases. Every human being should be given the opportunity to take advantage of this human form of life. And a father like Kashyapa is supposed to beget good children for the purpose of liberation.
Well, so all the flowery and nice words that DT is using, but actually it's not acceptable, because a father or mother should be confident that they can beget children who they can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. So there's no thought about that in DT's mind right now. It's just have the kid, because her sister has kids. Her sisters have kids. She wants her kid, and whether she takes advantage of doing things in a right way or wrong way, she has her excuses why she's doing them, even though it's wrong. So this is not acceptable. Okay, and it results in disaster. Okay, so let's go to the next verse. Somebody else can read. Text 13.
In days long ago, our father, the most opulent Daksha, who was affectionate to his daughters, asked each of us separately whom we would prefer to select as our husband. It appears from this verse that free selection of a husband was allowed by the father, but not by free association. The daughters were asked separately to submit their selection of a husband who was famous for his acts and personality. The ultimate selection depended on the choice of the father.
Okay, so, girls were protected pretty closely in traditional Vedic culture, so that they would not be tricked into doing illicit things. But they did have the what's called free selection of a husband. But they would not say it directly to the father. They would talk to the grandmother or somebody else, and then she would present it to the father, and then he would make the final decision. So the ultimate selection depended on the choice of the father. Nowadays, if you say, well, this is the way we should choose a husband, people will look at you and think, what, are you crazy or what? This is, but this is what was practiced. Okay, next, text 14, somebody else.
Our well-wishing father, Daksha, after knowing our intentions, handed over 13 of his daughters unto you, and since then we have all been faithful. Generally, the daughters were too shy to express their opinions before their father, but the father would accept the daughter's intentions through someone else, such as the grandmother, to whom the grandchildren had free access. King Daksha collected the opinions of his daughters, and thus handed over 13 to Kasyapa. Every one of these sisters was a mother of a children. Therefore, since she was equally faithful to the same husband, why should she remain without children?
Well, see, this is a, what you would call incomplete or false opinion. Were the other sisters engaged in what you would call seducing Kasyapa because of their lust to have a child? No. It's only Aditi who's doing that. Although she sort of sugarcoats her words so that it seems to be rational and proper, but actually it's not. Okay, let's go to the next verse.
O Lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone in distress approaches a great person, his pleas should never go in vain. Diti knew well that her request might be rejected because of the untimely situation, but she pleaded that when there is an emergency or a distressful condition, there is no consideration or time or situation.
So again, this is a false narrative. It's not factual. It sounds okay, but it's not pertinent in this situation. Okay, someone else. Next.
Translation. O hero Vidura, Diti, being thus afflicted by contamination of lust and therefore poor and talkative, was pacified by the son of Marichi in suitable words. Purport.
Well, let's read that again. Go slowly.
O hero Vidura, Diti, being thus afflicted by the contamination of lust and therefore poor and talkative, was pacified by the son of Marichi in suitable words.
Go ahead.
Purport. When a man or woman is afflicted by the lust of sex desire, it is to be understood as sinful contamination. Kashyapa was engaged in his spiritual activities, but he did not have sufficient strength to refuse his wife, who was thus afflicted. He could have refused her with strong words, expressing impossibility, but he was not as spiritually strong as Vidura. Vidura is addressed here as a hero because no one is stronger in self-control than a devotee of the Lord. It appears that Kashyapa was already inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife, and because he was not a strong man, he tried to dissuade her only with pacifying words.
Dissuade her.
Dissuade her only with pacifying words.
So, we see all the little subtleties of the contamination of lust. You know, people come up with very clever language and concepts and so forth to make something that's completely wrong look as if it's right. And the problem with Kashyapa is he doesn't have the same conviction as Vidura to strictly follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma in this particular respect. So therefore, he was not able to control himself. And he was not able to control his wife. So he just spoke what you would call inappropriate pacification rather than speaking the truth. Okay. And here it says, when a man or woman is afflicted by lust of sex desire, it is to be understood as sinful contamination. Kashyapa was engaged in his spiritual activities, but he did not have sufficient strength to refuse his wife, who was thus afflicted. He could have refused her with strong words, expressing impossibility, but he was not as spiritually strong as Vidura. Vidura is addressed here as a hero because no one is stronger in self-control than a devotee of the Lord. It appears that Kashyapa was already inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife, and because he was not a strong man, he tried to dissuade her only with pacifying words. Pacifying words. This is interesting, isn't it? I mean, now we see how, by clever language, people can mask their, what you would call, lusty desires and make something bad seem good. But unless you're trained to be a genuine devotee, you would not be able to see through it. Like, for example, this is a real example. Many years ago in Paris, one devotee came from the United States. And when he came, he said he was looking to buy a restaurant in Paris to open up a Hare Krishna, let's say, food program, prasadam program. So I was asked by the temple president at that time to drive him around Paris and try and find a suitable restaurant that was for sale so he could buy it and open up a Hare Krishna, let's say Govinda's or something like that. So I said, okay. So here I start driving him around, and we go to one place, we go to another place, we go to a third place, we go to a fourth place. That was one day, then another day. And every day, he kept repeating something that, at first I didn't take much notice of what he was saying, but because he kept repeating it, it sort of went into my mind. And he kept saying, in America, there are a lot of devotees making a lot of money. And you can do it too here in Paris. So, of course, I had my own business at that time, and I was making a lot of money. But, I didn't want to say anything to, take his mind away from finding this restaurant, right? So, I didn't really say, yeah, I would like to know also how to do it. But, I just listened. So this went on for about a week. And then finally, I asked him a question. I said, well, you keep saying there are a lot of devotees in the United States who are making a lot of money. How are they doing it exactly? He said, oh, it's real easy. All you have to do is go to India and come back. I said, go to India and come back. Go. I don't get it. I said, what do you mean? He said, when you go to India, you pick up this package and you bring it back to the United States and you make a lot of money. I said, a package. I said, what's in the package? He said, there's only some liquid. I said, liquid? What kind of liquid? He said, oh, it's nothing. It's just natural. It's organic. I said, okay. Well, what's the name of the liquid? So he gave this name, this chemical name, right? So I said, well, is there any simple name for it besides this Latin name? So finally he said that it's liquid marijuana. I said, liquid marijuana? And I said, isn't that a violation of our rules? No intoxication. He said, well, no, you don't take it. Other people want it. We're just satisfying their desires. I said, that doesn't make sense. I said, that's a violation of Krishna consciousness. He said, no. We use the money to glorify Prabhupada, do festivals, and make temple improvements. And, he went through a whole list. He had a litany of things that are positive that happen when you sell liquid marijuana. And you don't have to sell it, you just bring it, right? So now I was thinking, I said, look, this is nonsense. But I didn't say anything to him. When I went back, I told the temple people, I said, look, this is nonsense. This guy's he's a dope dealer. He's not really looking for a restaurant. He's looking for what you call mules. The mules are people that take packages from India to the United States, right? In other words, they're smugglers, in a sense. But they're ordinary people, so they have a chance of getting through the customs. And if they get caught, then, they're in trouble. So I said to the devotees, I said, look, this guy's not a good person. Let's just let him go away, forget about his restaurant and all that nonsense. So here you see that he was able to convince a lot of devotees in the United States to do this. And now he was coming to Europe to expand his marijuana empire by convincing other devotees. Now, as soon as, I kept asking questions to find out what he was talking about. And when he finally told the truth, then I said, well, this is something we're not allowed to do. This is selling intoxicants. It's ruining other people's lives. He said, no. It's for Prabhupada. It's for festivals. It's for temple maintenance. It's for this. It's for Jagannath. It's for, using all this language, right? Jagannath, Prabhupada, temple, blah, 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 blah. So unless we have the discrimination to understand a person who is nonsense, we're going to get in trouble. We're going to make mistakes unless we ask questions. Now let me give you one more example. Many times people come to me and say, oh, I want to join Hare Krishna and live in your temple. I get phone calls. Some people contact me directly. So this one person came. He said he was initiated already by Charudas in Utah. And I said, oh, really? I said, give me a little bit of information about your devotional life. He said, well, I was initiated, 19, blah, blah, blah. And then I did service in the temple with my Guru Dev. And so he sort of stopped there. So I said, well, that was like, 10 years ago. How about the 10 years? What did you do in those 10 years? He said, well, I was traveling. I said, oh, traveling, interesting. Where did you go? So I went somewhere in Alabama. I said, Alabama, interesting. I said, what did you do there? So he was getting a little bit nervous, He said, well, I was in jail. Oh, okay, in Alabama. Why were you in jail? He said, I'd made some mistakes. I said, can you tell me what those mistakes were? And, finally, he had to tell the truth. He was a child molester, right? And he wants to live in the temple. I said, there's no way you can live in our temple. I said, first of all, we got a lot of children that come to the temple. He said, why are you being mean like this? I said, I'm not being mean. I'm being kind. I have to protect these kids. If you've done something like that in the past, I can't watch you 24 hours a day. I said, if you want to come to the temple, you can only come when there's nobody here. And you have to get permission from me. And you can have some, darshan, I'll give you some prasadam. But you cannot come on a regular program. It's very restricted. So he started saying, well, you're very mean. You're not really interested in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan party, but, all the nonsense he was saying. So, you have to be very careful in this country. There's so many, perverts and so many crazy people. And they love Hare Krishna because they have a place to sleep, they have free food, and they can have access to little kids and so many things. Right? So we can't let just anybody into the temple. There's got to be some vetting. And then sometimes there are devotees who are completely corrupt. They're trying to find mules, people who will carry marijuana from India to, let's say, Dallas, and make a lot of money for, Prabhupada, Jagannath, festivals, this thing, that thing. So in the same way, DT here is what you call sugarcoating her lustiness with language, trying to make her desire seem normal. And it doesn't work like that. Unless we are trained to know what is the truth and what is not the truth, we won't be able to differentiate a false person who's overwhelmed by lust from a real person who's a devotee. Okay, we're going to stop right there. Now, these are amazing purports that are going to come now in the next couple of days. And these questions are very important for us because we have children, we have women, we have men. We have a responsibility to train our people to know what is the truth and what is not the truth, to be able to discriminate who is being genuine and who's basically a liar and is just pretending to be a devotee in order to take advantage of something. Okay, so are there any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, there is one online question from yesterday's class.
Okay,
is
go
it
ahead.
okay? So Maharaj, yesterday you talked about the itching,
Yeah.
and the material desires. So the question is how to stop our itching so that we can put a stop on the material desires.
Okay, that's It's a legitimate question. Association with good devotees. That's the only way you can stop. If you say, well, yeah, chant more, or go on parikram, or no. It's associating with genuine devotees on a regular basis and hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by them. That's the only way you can stop that itching. Otherwise, it's not going to stop. You can go on parikram, you can do this, you can do that. It's not going to stop. It's the association. If you associate with genuine devotees and you want to do nonsense, they'll tell you, look, this is nonsense. This is not Krishna consciousness. They'll be able to explain it to you and stop you. But if you associate with weak devotees, and you're a weak devotee, you're going to fall down eventually. You won't be able to control yourself. Yeah. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
We understood that, like from reading the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, that a soul has no sexuality, like male or female. Is that?
Well, no. When you say the soul has no sexuality, I mean, Krishna is not a woman, right?
Mm.
Radharani is not a man, right? But you can have fluctuating sexuality. There are examples of that in the Bhagavatam, of a devotee who's a man, but 6 months of the year he's a woman. He can get pregnant and have children, and then 6 months of the year he's a man. So, but once you assume an identity, right, it's going to last for some time, right? It's not like one day I'm this, and the next day I'm that, and the next day I'm that.
Right.
Right. So, what's important is not to look at the exceptions, but to look at what is practiced normally. So, if in this life you're a woman, and when you die you think of your husband at the moment of death, next life you'll be a man. And if your husband thinks of you, he'll become a woman. So therefore, let's concentrate on Krishna and not all these other things, right? So that you go back to Godhead and solve this whole problem. So in Godhead, there are, especially in Vaikuntha and even in Goloka, there are plenty of couples that completely spent their life, or essential part of their life, in Krishna consciousness, and they both were liberated together eternally. Right? So we shouldn't worry about the fluidity of sexuality, of sex. When I say sex, of gender,
yeah.
We should consider functioning in this lifetime, whether you're a man or a woman, in Krishna consciousness. And Krishna will take care of us. Okay?
The question is how, because in Diti's case, I'm not sure if she has any daughters. She was predominantly looking for sons, and that caused the destruction for whatever is coming up.
Well, no, what caused the havoc was that the desire she had, it was based on lust.
Lust.
It was not based on service to Krishna.
So because she comes from the family
Noble
of...
family.
Exactly. So having that lusty desire and predominantly wanting the sons, and how in one of the texts, how the sons are, take you from, not sure where that is, I mean, talking about the importance of the sons. So,
Having sons.
having sons. So why is it so predominant? Like even in earlier, Daksha has been very careful to choose the right husband for the daughters, but why the scriptures have made, because that has a very negative effect on how it has dropped down at this point. Thinking,
Well, there's what you call limited free will. So obviously her sisters did things the right way, and because she felt as if she was being left out and not functioning like a good wife and having sons, she was willing to ignore the proper way and do anything haphazardly to get what she wanted. Well, that's a mistake. So that type of what you would call I want this now, I don't care what the results are, is not good. Because look at the results. The two biggest demons in the history of the world were born. Now, there is a silver lining. This is a long chapter, so you're going to hear something very interesting as we go along. But in the particular situation of Diti, she made a big mistake. And she's going to realize it, and then she's going to ask her husband, how can I correct this mistake? So there's always a possibility of in Krishna consciousness, just like, the Christians say, if you go to hell, that's it, you're finished. You're going to be there forever. But we don't say that. So we have people like Narada Muni that go to hell and save people, bring them back, and turn them into genuine devotees. So in the same way, in this history of Diti, she's going to eventually apologize for what she did, feel very, very sad that it happened, and ask if there's any way that it can be rectified. And she'll be given a very, very wonderful potential that actually happens, and now it became purified. So let's, there are a lot of purports in this section, and it's all educational to know how to be a proper wife and a proper husband, and to have proper kids, and for the husband and wife together to go back to Godhead. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So next couple days, I'm going to be having a little bit difficulties, but I will still have the classes. Haribol.